kinds of foul things would you be willing to endure in your work? Would you wade in pigeon droppings for hours at a time? Collect corpses from the grisly scenes of car crashes, murders, and suicides? Or dive into sewers through waters filled with excrement, toxic waste, and dead bodies? What kind of work would be taboo for you? Work is often hard, but there are some jobs that require a special kind of endurance. The ability to tolerate things so disgusting, so rank, so gross, that most people would do almost anything to avoid them. In the 1,200-year-old city of Fez, Morocco, people still do their work the old-fashioned way. And sometimes that means getting much more than just their hands dirty. In one factory here, it means practicing one of the most noxious crafts on Earth, the revolting job of turning raw animal skins into beautiful leather. It is not a job for the squeamish. This tannery is infamous as the foulest smelling place in all of Fez. And it reeks of much more than the scent of animal hides that arrive daily. Its stench emanates from an abundant supply of another fetid but natural ingredient: pigeon droppings. Visitors to the tannery don't just notice the odor.
You're right, it smells quite strong.
They're staggered by it.
Oh my god. Initially, when you sort of first smell it, it's really overpowering. And it's like, to me, it smelled like manure. There's a manure smell, and then there's a smell that's quite sickening. Awful, absolutely awful to have to hear.
Smells are a particularly powerful elicitor of disgust. Paul Rosen is professor of psychology at the University of Pennsylvania. When you smell something, you take it into your body. It's almost like eating. So there's something more intimate about smelling than there is about seeing or hearing. But like all dirty and smelly work, somebody has to do it. Every day, 17-year-old Musin must wind his way through the ancient alleyways of Fez. He is following in the footsteps of the countless generations who have labored before him in this 600-year-old tannery.
I knew about the smell because before dropping out of school, I used to come help my father in the tannery. My first time here, the smell was terrible. I felt like I was suffocating. I couldn't bear it. But after a while, the smell simply became normal for me. I no longer noticed it at all.
After just 3 years here, Musin's tenure has been relatively brief. But his father, Abdel, has been breathing in the tannery stench for more than 3 decades.
My father taught me everything about the tannery. I do the same thing as he does.
Each delivery of skins fresh from the slaughter means the start of a stinking, wet, filthy process. It's part of Musin's job to unload the hides and wash them, which can be a stomach-turning chore in itself. Musin's father, Abdel, knows this job is not his son's first choice. Many of Morocco's young people turn up their noses at the thought of working in the smelly tannery.
Many days he doesn't even want to come here to work, but he has to because he has no alternative. If he had the option to do something else, then he would do something else. I do this job to make a living because I need to make money in order to survive. But if I could find another job, I wouldn't stay in this job for even a minute.
One of the wonderful things about modern society and about the West is that we can, at least in theory, do almost whatever we want to do.
Gerald Urchak is professor of anthropology at Skidmore College.
But in societies such as the one we're looking at here, you have people that are essentially locked in to a particular occupation. Now, on the one hand, at least they have an occupation, but on the other hand, it's an occupation that many of them would probably like not to have.
Of all the foul tasks Musin must do, few are worse than washing the animal skins. And there's no other way to do it than to climb right into the tub. A fetid sewer of animal hides, flesh, hair, and bacteria. Exposure to the filth makes Musin and his co-workers more susceptible to infections, particularly if they were to have any open sores or cuts. And the waste just keeps flowing. While Musin rinses his lambskins, others prepare cowhides for tanning, scraping the leftovers into the same near-stagnant pool. Cleaning is just one part of this job, but it alone is enough to disgust or even sicken many outsiders. Disgust is, in large part, well, not entirely about, sort of contact with our animal nature. And so anything that puts you into contact with that would be inclined to be disgusting. Anything having to do with the insides of the body, like, animals have guts and things and blood inside them, and we share that with animals. And that kind of sharing of things with animals is sort of offensive to people. People like to think of themselves as better than animals, above them, and they don't like the reminder that they're really an animal, basically just a fancy animal. Nothing about this job is for the faint of heart, but Musin has learned to appreciate its benefits.
My friends who work in other professions tell me that my job is good, because I can take a swim in the water in the summer. It's not like other jobs, such as working for a shoemaker, where you have to stay in the same place all day long.
The tanning process isn't just dirty. It's also dangerous. Musin has to paint the skins with a lime mixture to separate the lamb's wool from its valuable hide. But the acidic lime can burn human skin. He works very carefully under the ever-watchful eye of his father.
If you're going to do something, you have to do it properly.
This work has changed little since medieval times, when the skills of tanners and bookbinders helped make the word Morocco synonymous with fine leather. Yet despite its reputation, the reward for carrying on this unappealing job brings beginning tanners just $2 a day, and very experienced ones about $5. Musin's work is overseen by the owner of the skins. He knows that virtually all the ingredients used at the tannery are natural, and over the years has come to swear by the power of the bark water in this vat as a cleansing mouthwash. Its techniques may be organic, but the tannery is far from a sterile place to work or to visit. Coming up, visitors to the tannery endure some of the world's foulest smells.
Many tourists have vomited here.
And later, would you volunteer to be a body collector? As odd as it may seem, tourists to Fez often choose to explore the tannery, despite warnings about its stench.
Something's rotten in Denmark.
Oh my God.
Lorraine is a nurse from Australia, visiting Morocco as part of a tour group. From above, they are getting their first glimpse and whiff of the tannery.
Wow. Ooh.
It's obviously blood and flesh curing, and it's got a definite smell of a killing field.
Before entering the heart of the tannery, the tour guide prepares the group for what's to come.
Who gives the bad smells? It's not the skin, it's the sheets of pigeons. Yes, we use the sheets of pigeons to make them softer.
Really?
Yes, because in this one,
Workers here may be accustomed to the stench, but they know it can hit visitors like a blow to the gut.
Many tourists have vomited here, not just one or two.
The guide gives the tourists fresh mint to use as an air freshener.
we put the meat inside the nose. Put this in your nose and it feels still nothing, no pain.
Oh, charming.
But the effects of the mint are limited.
Oh, no, I don't want to go in here. Oh, my God. Oh. That's an experience. I can smell dirt, manure, urine. It's like skins laying everywhere, fur and horns. It smells good to me again.
Much of that odor comes from the factory's potent and pungent secret ingredient, pigeon droppings. Often it's up to Mosine and his father to find their smelly prize. And sometimes that can take quite a hunt. Today's search takes them to the house of a family friend who keeps pigeons on his roof. The birds are well trained. They know where to do their business. Normally, it takes about a pound of pigeon droppings to tan 5 animal skins. The pickings here are slim, but Mosine and his father will add the fresh droppings to the supply they already have. The smell inside the coop is tolerable. It's when the droppings get wet and mix with decaying flesh that they really cause a stink. With plenty of pigeon droppings, Mosine can now complete the one job at the tannery that's by far the dirtiest and the smelliest: wading into a vat of excrement. The stench is overpowering, but Mosine must keep his head and be sure to add just the right amount of water to the pigeon droppings. The perfect mix will help make the skins supple, but not too soft.
The pigeon droppings have a burning quality, so when you put it on the skin, it bites into it and softens it. And then the skin becomes like a piece of cloth.
But to transform these raw hides into leather cloth requires Mosine to get down and dirty. Shoeless, he can use his toes and heels to knead the skins over and over. For almost 3 hours, he tromps around the vat. Even apart from the smell, it's a difficult chore, requiring strength and endurance. Finally, the skins are soft enough to please the expert, his father, Abdel.
This is a very good job. It's a good job, isn't it? Just look at what we produce. It's beautiful. My son made this.
It's a product to be proud of, and few who end up wearing this leather on their feet will ever know that it was crafted in one of the foulest smelling places on Earth. Often, people find jobs undesirable because they involve contact with something taboo. And there are few things more taboo than the dead. Dead bodies are a major category of disgust elicitors cross-culturally. Touching them, being near them, smelling them. Death is right at the center of what disgust is about. But there are people who seek out the dead, who confront death at its most grisly, and who do it for free. Would you want to do this in your spare time? Spend your nights rushing to grisly scenes, auto accidents, fires, and horrible crimes, and then retrieve the dead bodies? Would you volunteer to be a body collector? It's 10 p.m. On the streets of Bangkok, Thailand, another motorcyclist has met a tragic end. And 29-year-old Benjawan Makmi is at the scene. But Benjawan is not a paramedic or a nurse. She's a housewife and mother who night after night faces death voluntarily. The blood and twisted body of the victim would sicken most people. When Benjawan handled her first corpse, she was no different.
I was very shocked. I'd only seen this on TV. Never the real thing. I felt like I couldn't take it. It was so scary.
Touching the dead may be the one thing that terrifies nearly everyone. In many cultures throughout the world, there is a strong taboo against it. Death is a polluting event for most people. It's a contaminating event. If you touch death, somehow a dead body, it sort of takes on it, it enters you in some way. It's a sense of you catching death, almost by touching it. By night, Benjuan does a job many view as disgusting and filthy. By day, she earns a living keeping things clean. She makes a modest salary taking in others' laundry. While to kids in the West, it might seem normal for mom to volunteer for the PTA or the local soup kitchen, Benjuan's children have had to get used to the fact that their mother chooses to pick up dead bodies. And in this household, Benjuan's not alone. Her husband, who works as a contractor, also volunteers as a body collector. Why would anyone want to do this? Although it's gross work, for them, it's good work. As Buddhists, they believe they'll be rewarded, if not in this life, then in the next.
I think that if I do good now, then after reincarnation, good things will happen to me and my family. Right now might be difficult, but the next reincarnation, or the next day, we'll be a little better off.
In Bangkok, of course, the people are Theravada Buddhist, and they believe very deeply in reincarnation. So if you carry out your duties in this life the best you can, that greatly increases your chance of coming out better in the next life.
Benjuan volunteers for the Ram Katanyu Foundation. This Buddhist charity has trained over 4,000 volunteers to do everything from fight fires to collect and bury bodies. In Thailand, every year, 12,000 people die in auto accidents, many of them in Bangkok. Another 10,000 are murdered or commit suicide. Stretched woefully thin, Bangkok's emergency services could never handle the tide of death without help from the volunteer teams of body collectors. A single charity can collect over 400 cadavers in a month. The volunteers believe they'll get spiritual credit or merits that will benefit them in this life, and when their spirit is reincarnated after death. The nastier the work, the more merits you earn. This notion of doing good in this life to gain spiritual merit in the next is not unique to Buddhism.
There have been religious orders throughout Western history that were devoted to caring for lepers, for doing the most difficult kinds of activities. In the Christian tradition, people see it as very much guaranteeing a place in heaven and something that we admire.
These spiritual rewards may explain why people from all walks of life volunteer to collect bodies.
Everyone asks why, when I'm an actor and am popular and have money, do I want to do this?
Saren Bangi Khan, known to his friends as Wave, is a popular soap opera star. By day, Wave is a busy professional with constant demands on his time and talent. By night, he's a volunteer body collector.
I choose to do this job because I get to work with corpses and dead people. It's something that most people are afraid of. They detest it because of the smell or the state of the body. But we're willing to do this type of work.
Wave is so enthusiastic about collecting bodies, he's bought his own truck and gear. So when an emergency happens, he and his team can immediately spring into action.
Some people ask, can I do it? Do I dare do it? Aren't you scared? When you come into work and get used to it, and you're not afraid anymore, you want to keep doing it, and you want to use all that you have to help them, to help the people in this society.
Coming up, Wave must face a disturbing death. And later, could you earn your paycheck diving into raw sewage? For the volunteer body collectors of Bangkok, auto accidents are disturbing enough. But even worse, are deaths that are not accidents at all.
We got a call about someone who hung himself in a rented room. We are waiting for the police to come and for the doctor to determine if it was a suicide or a murder.
Wave and his team go in once the doctor rules the death a suicide. What they find is grisly. The man has been dead for 2 days. Before Wave does anything else, he pulls on his gloves.
There are many kinds of diseases like AIDS and things like that pass through the blood and wounds. Everyone's afraid of that. Every time we go to work, we have to wear gloves, no matter if they are hurt or are dead, just for protection.
Once the coroner and the police are done, they make way for the body collectors. In Thailand, suicide is considered a crime worse than murder, because it denies the spirit the chance for a positive reincarnation. Wave knows few would be able to confront such a horrible death.
Sometimes people want to help, but they don't dare to. They are probably afraid of the smell, afraid of the blood, dirty things, messed up things, or they are afraid of the diseases you might get. And the smell that touches your clothes and your body. Sometimes we have to throw our clothes away because there's no way to wash the smell.
The dead man must be fingerprinted before being taken to the police station. The morgue is overcrowded. Without a way to identify it, the body might get confused with another. Then the body collectors wrap the corpse with absorbent paper to prevent its fluids from escaping. Throughout, the volunteers handle the cadaver with utmost respect. And if a victim's family cannot be found, the body collectors will even provide a funeral for him. For Wave, any death, even this one, is made easier to face when it's considered a natural part of life.
People are born, get old, get sick, and die. It happens to everyone. We don't know when it will happen, so we learn acceptance.
Wave's team is just one of many charities in Bangkok that collect bodies and spiritual merit. It's not uncommon for several of them to answer the same call, each fighting to be first on the scene.
Body collecting is like a competition, it's like a game. Who can get to the body the quickest?
Andrew Matzner is a lecturer at Holland's University.
I have heard of accounts where members of two charitable organizations that collect bodies will arrive on a crime scene at the same time and will come to blows. These people will actually come to blows over this corpse.
More often, however, volunteers show only reverence for the deceased. They see their job as not just collecting bodies, but helping to guide the spirit on its way. It's 11:47 p.m. Benjawan Makmi and her team are the first body collectors to arrive on the scene of a grisly car wreck.
A car crashed into a concrete platform. The injured have been sent to the hospital, and there is one dead male.
The victim is a high-ranking police officer. His body still pinned in the mangled car. While some volunteers rush to comfort his wife, who's just arrived, Benjawan helps emergency workers free the corpse. To help the man's spirit continue its journey to the next life, Benjawan will make sure his body is handled as gently as possible.
When a person is dead, we should respect them. We can't just treat them any way we want. They still have a heart, like we do.
Once removed, the corpse is inspected for wounds and to ensure that any severed parts are collected. Some Thais believe that any missing fingers or limbs will also be absent when the person is reborn. Many people here also believe that after someone dies, their ghost still hovers around the body. Even Benjawan believes the dead person's spirit is sometimes watching her.
Some people wonder if ghosts follow us or not. If that happens, I think they just want to protect us. We don't do any harm because we only help them. So they just come and protect us.
And when the collecting is complete, the volunteers pause to commune with that lingering spirit.
We pay it respect. We ask for forgiveness if we did anything wrong in handling the body. Is touching the body bad? No, because the dead are like us. When they were alive, they had life like us and skin like us. So the more you help them, the more you're blessed.
Benjuan insists she will continue to volunteer, collecting the dead in order to collect more spiritual merit.
Do I ever think about quitting? Never. If there are accidents, I think about how I'm going to help. And if they lost their lives, how I'm going to get the bodies out. That's what I think. But do I think about quitting? It's never in my thoughts.
Touching the dead may be taboo, but when it comes to sheer disgust, there are few things more likely to turn a person's stomach than coming in contact with excrement. Would you take a job swimming in human waste? It's the bowels of one of the world's largest and most polluted cities, where disease runs rampant and the stench is sickening. Human excrement, toxic waste, rotting cadavers, all flowing right beneath the sidewalk. To most, the thought of working in a sewer, any sewer, would be revolting.
That stuff grosses me out. I would find it highly gross.
If anything is a universal disgust in feces, and the sewers of Mexico City are as disgusting as any on Earth. But this man, Carlos Barrios, has just given up a comfortable desk job for the opportunity to swim in them.
It's not for normal people to do this job.
It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and Carlos is pulling a dead dog out of the sewer. He's making sure that the wastewater of Mexico City, known as the monster, stays where it belongs.
It's like a big monster who show you their teeth and trying to bite you.
Would you submerge yourself in raw sewage to make a living? Or retrieve dead bodies from drain pipes for a paycheck? Would you work here? Located in a massive basin, Mexico City is a crowded industrial colossus. Its sewer lines stretch for thousands of miles, some following channels dug by the Aztecs. They snake through ground that is notoriously unstable, sinking every year in a region known for its earthquakes. The sewers are severely overtaxed. Not only must they accommodate runoff from the mountains, but also the waste from the toilets and sinks of 19 million people. The slightest blockage can send sewage flowing into the streets and subways, or worse, into the homes of thousands.
We pull up all the things you can imagine. You can see chairs, cars, all kind of waste. Anything you like is in the drains.
8 months ago, at age 45, Carlos decided to leave his job as an accountant to join the team that keeps these sewers flowing.
I have worked for the city about 24 years. When I get bored of the office job, the opportunity came for me to dive, and I took it. It was a great change for me. I changed my life completely.
For a mere $500 a month, Carlos swims through human waste to repair drain pipes and pumps and to clear blockages. Not many people would want to dive into a cesspool, no matter how bored they were at the office. But there's another reason Carlos spends his days wading through human and chemical waste.
He likes it. Swimming and diving. He likes it a lot.
Carlos may enjoy his work, but his wife Monica is not quite as enthusiastic.
It's really dangerous for him. Each time he goes, I pray for everything to turn out fine, and for him to be okay.
Monica has good reason to worry. When Carlos took this job, he was well aware of the dangers. 8 years ago, an experienced diver was sent into the septic waste on what should have been a routine mission. Jose Luis Silva's job that day was to dislodge a tire that was stuck in a floodgate. It was a task he had done countless times before. To reach the tire, he unhooked his umbilical cord, his only lifeline to the surface. When he finally pried the tire loose, the sudden release of water pressure sucked him into the opening. His skull slammed against the wall, killing him instantly. Chief Julio Kole, Carlos's boss, was part of the team that pulled Luis's body from the wastewaters.
The death of my partner, Luis Silva, was an accident to which all of us are exposed.
Julio has spent almost half his life in the sewers. He knows all too well the perils of his profession.
Even today, I dive with fear, because I know the dangers, but it helps me to be more meticulous. We always check everything.
The sewer divers train constantly. They know that in this line of work, preparation can make the difference between life and death. Particularly because most of the time, they are working blind. With chunks of sewage and black sediment floating around their faces, they cannot see.
You don't see anything in the wastewaters. You have to work blinded, completely blinded.
Carlos won't have the luxury of the clear water in this training tank when he's in the waste. Since he won't be able to see, he has to memorize the design of valves, motors, and tools, so he can fix everything by touch.
There are many dangers because you only can feel, you only can touch.
Above ground, Julio tests Carlos's ability to manipulate equipment without the sense of sight, just as he must do in the sewers.
Touching. What are you touching? Tell me how big it is. 1 meter? Correct. Take 2 steps to the front and turn to your right. What is that? I want you to tie it with the cable you have around your waist. Be calm. There's no rush.
It's all so that Carlos will be ready when catastrophe strikes, as it did in June of 2000. In the suburb of Chalco, torrential rains caused a major canal to burst, spewing raw sewage into 10,000 homes and transforming backyards into 6-foot-deep cesspools. The threat of cholera and other diseases caused authorities to issue a health alert, and thousands of residents were evacuated. Julio and his crew were called to action, sparing countless more from further disaster.
We segmented the canal so that the water did not reach houses.
In Chalco,
a lot of people worked. Policemen, firefighters, people with the army. We all worked together, but the most important job was done by us.
Today, Julio, Carlos, and the team have come to protect this bustling neighborhood from a similar fate. Coming up, an emergency call sends Carlos into the foul depths to do battle with the monster. Keeping Mexico City free from flooding sewers is a non-stop job. Carlos's mission is to descend into the sludge beneath a busy intersection with his partner, trudge through a river of swift-moving sewage, assess the pipes for repairs, and get out unscathed. To most people, the thought of being lowered through a manhole almost 4 stories down would be unsettling. Not to mention landing in water that carries disease, feces, and industrial waste. The sewer divers will have to work quickly. These pipes may contain poisonous fumes that can asphyxiate them. The sewer doesn't just stink, it's noxious.
nothing lives in there. Nothing. No rats, no roaches, nothing. It's a very hostile environment.
And this is what sewer divers call a routine mission. Carlos radios Julio to let him know their progress. They find some cracks in the pipe walls, but for now, it's nothing to worry about. They'll return in several months to check on the trouble spots. Next time, it may not be this easy. Back at the base, Carlos barely has time to stow his gear when emergency calls. The Alculco pumping plant has a mysterious blockage, and it needs to be cleared immediately. Someone will have to plunge into the toxic waters and uncover the problem. Once again, the dirty job falls to Carlos.
I'm gonna suit up, I'm gonna dress up, and I'm going to get down and search it.
Be calm and careful. If anything happens, don't despair. I'll be the one to make decisions. We will be very safe. It is Carlos's life, so we will be careful.
Carlos has no idea what to expect. He must be ready for anything. Garbage and human waste aren't the only things dumped into these sewers. Julio's team alone has hauled out more than a dozen corpses, most of them murder victims. The waste is thick, but by the team's standards, clearer than normal. Still, Carlos has virtually zero visibility. He treads carefully. Alone, in this dark, claustrophobic environment, he must remain calm and focused. Confusion can mean death.
I can feel this darkness, this loneliness, and I concentrate in my work, because if you begin to think about the danger you are, you begin to be in panic. It's like a big grave, not to be a human being, just to be a part of that waste.
To keep Carlos's anxiety in check, Julio stays in close contact.
We talk a lot to them. When they are inside the waters in the dark, it calms them down to listen to the guide.
Carlos tries not to think about the soup of bacteria he's swimming in, including tetanus, typhoid, and cholera. His suit protects him, but it isn't armor. A sharp puncture could wreak havoc.
If the suit is cut and you cut our skin also, you have to get to the hospital because of the environment. It's very contaminated.
After a half-hour search, Carlos locates the obstruction.
There's a metallic object. I'm gonna touch it to see what it is. Roger. Roger. It has holes in it. Roger. Roger. Tie it up and tell me about it when you get back.
Thankfully, it's not a dead body, but a rusty wheel from an old sewage pump. Once they've located it, the team makes swift work of the problem.
I'm in the basket. I'm inside the basket. Roger. I'll proceed to bring you back up. Raise it. It's a beautiful job that many do not acknowledge. Even though it is ugly, it is special.
It's been a successful mission for Carlos. But before he can undress, he must be washed and scrubbed down with a disinfectant. Then, Julio follows up with his charge.
When you couldn't see anything, how did you feel?
With the instructions, I was calm. There weren't any problems down there.
Good job. I'm glad it came out well.
In his new job, Carlos has found a renewed sense of purpose.
I feel like I'm being someone who makes people live better. That kind of sense of being good, be helpful, and to be in a job that makes the people have a good service.
With infinite amounts of sewage to tend to, it's unlikely that Carlos will be getting a vacation anytime soon. He's got plenty to keep him busy, performing one of the planet's grossest jobs in the bowels of Mexico City. People performing gross jobs take pride in what they do. Whether they're carrying on an age-old family tradition, confronting death in this life to earn merit in the next, or performing a service they know is vitally important. But for many others, no matter what the reward, such jobs will always remain taboo.